Hello, everybody, and welcome to Two Geeks and One Noob, where we gather friends of similar interests, and maybe not so similar, and discuss, joke, learn more about, and generally have fun with geek culture. Today, our topic is old school Disney, and maybe a little bit of new school, who knows? But yeah, we're talking about some old school Disney movies and maybe even some shows too that we grew up on, and yeah, so let's get started. What do we what all right, here's my first question. What is the first Disney movie you ever remember watching?
Snow White.
Wow, you were real early. Okay, cool.
I'm not that old.
No, not that you were that old, but you
physically
you
no.
started mentally is a different but yeah, no, like that's basically one of the earliest animated.
I think it was
That
the
is
first.
the
I think it was
earliest.
the first full length animated movie. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Awesome. So you got started on the OG.
Yep. Well, it was either that or Apple Dumpling Gang
I think, was that a movie or was that a show?
movie.
Okay. Cool.
It might have been. It might have become a show because that seems to be Disney's MO.
Right. Right. Yeah. We'll have to look that up.
Yeah, I don't know.
What about you, Caleb?
The first one I remember watching was Beauty and the Beast.
Nice.
Mm.
Nice.
I grew
nice.
up with all of the ones that all three of us grew up with, but the first one I have clear memories of was Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah. Very nice. Yeah. So mine's kind of funny because like I feel like I watched other ones before this, definitely, but the first one I remember fully watching was Lion King, because it was it was one that my dad had brought home on VHS, and it was like the first Disney movie that I remember ever owning, and it was like, yes, Lion King, yeah. I was like, I don't even remember. It was, I think, 1996.
Probably somewhere around there.
94 or 96 or something like that. Yeah. So I was really young, but it was just like, yes.
Nice.
But yeah.
So it was Apple Dumpling Gang was two movies.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Okay.
Apple Dumpling Gang and the Apple Dumpling Gang Rides Again.
Yeah. Remind me again. Is that the one that has like? Oh no, that's something else. Never mind. I was thinking of Mr. Toad and
Oh shoot.
Ichabod.
Yeah. American Sketchbook. Sorry, book, not movie. Crap.
It's something Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
The tale of Ichabod Crane and Mr. Toad.
Yeah. Okay.
Or the tales of either way. Yeah.
Old school. We're real good at remembering this stuff.
And we're probably still wrong. Yeah. Anyway.
Doesn't help that it's like Wednesday on recording and it's already been a full week for us.
Yeah.
Mentally, so
Yeah.
Some of this is definitely getting edited out.
Yeah, just a bit.
David, you said you had some questions.
Yes, I do actually. So
you're actually prepared. So
well, that's a stretch
to an extent.
So I've got a lot of friends who are deeply into Disney.
Me included.
You're on the tame side.
Okay.
You and Ariel both are on the tame side.
Okay.
So when I say they're really into Disney, I mean yearly trips to see what's new at the parks, both parks.
Wow.
Family goal is to visit each of the Disney World parks across the world.
Nice.
Typically does a Disney cruise once a year. That's sort of into Disney.
Wow.
Frankly, they scare me.
Of course they would scare you.
But they scare me. But I mean, they'll talk about the different eras of Disney.
Yeah.
And I will say I actually have, which might come as a shock to y'all, I actually do have some fond memories of Disney products, of Disney entertainment, of actually going to the parks. Well, the one park I've only been to, which I always get Disney World and Disneyland confused. The one in Florida.
Disney World is in Florida. Disneyland is in California.
Got it. Okay. So I've actually been, enjoyed it. It was fun. Massive shock to me to know that they technically own the rights to Twilight Zone.
Yeah. Yep.
But one thing they'll talk about is like the Silver Age, the Golden Age, the Princess Age, which I think is whenever we were growing up was during the Princess era.
Yeah. I would argue that it was overlapped with Golden Age.
Okay.
If I'm thinking of it correctly.
Okay. Yeah. So if you could just give a primer on that, if y'all could collaboratively give a primer on like what are the different ages of Disney and how they've progressed as a storytelling company.
Okay. I guess my thoughts on that, from what I know, I'm obviously not that deeply delved into it, but I know some at least. I would say the Silver Age of Disney would probably be in that Snow White era.
Okay. So whenever the animation was starting to be a bigger thing,
right. And I could be very wrong about that. That might have started the Golden Age because it was like the height of animation at the time. I feel like, and so it went into it was Snow White. It was oh yeah, go ahead. He actually looked it up. So
according to this website, so like this may not be accurate. This is just what I was able to find on a quick Google search. It's the Golden Age started in 1937, and it counts Snow White, Fantasia, Dumbo, Bambi, and Pinocchio.
Okay.
So it was their initial
after then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Golden Age was kind of their initial attempt at retelling
The
famous stories for kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so this website actually has several more than just the Golden, Silver, and Princess. So it has the next one is the Wartime Era, which is the Three Caballeros and Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
Oh, okay.
And
We were close.
Yep.
Then it goes into the Silver Age.
Oh, okay.
Which is what we grew up with, right?
That the Silver Age in the 50s.
In the 50s. Okay, never mind.
Going back,
We're not that old.
So
Nope.
Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan.
Okay, so it's the ones we grew up with, but it was the ones that came out before we were born.
And Sleeping Beauty and 101 Dalmatians.
Oh, okay.
Wait, when was 101 Dalmatians?
That was like late 70s, I think.
No way.
Like mid-late 70s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
How did I know that and you didn't?
Well, you have more knowledge
I have more
of the older
chronological.
ones
True.
than I like. Maybe not than I do, but
So the animated 101 Dalmatians was 1961.
1961.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dang.
Okay, so those ones definitely came out a lot earlier than I even realized.
Yeah.
Obviously, like I definitely grew up watching those because they were the classic Disney.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and frankly, I'm sorry. Who can forget the opening for Robin Hood?
Oh yeah.
It's funny you say that. I just scrolled to that one, and that one is classified as part of the Bronze Age.
Oh wow.
Okay. Yeah.
That is great.
There's a lot of like there's more than just a couple.
So
on this one,
I think a lot of what separates them is the animation style.
yeah,
Yeah.
Because it was a lot of very much hand drawn, like almost flip page version of animation.
If memory serves, they were the first to kind of invent the idea of panel animation, where it's more of you have it was shoot. Hang on, I'm forgetting it's not Chuck Taylor.
He invented the
sneakers.
shoes.
Yeah. Chuck Jones. That's what I'm thinking of. Okay. I want to say it was between he and Chuck Jones and Disney came up with these effectively what different ways of doing lightbox animation, where you'll have your background and then you'll just animate in clear cellophane frames building up from that.
Yeah.
they came about it around the same time, if memory serves. And but they came about it different ways around the same time.
Yeah.
There we go. Finally got that out the way I intended it to be. But both, I mean, there was a bit of a renaissance in animation at that time, as we were going from animation being more of the, hey, we don't actually have the manpower to get full paid actors here to do this short, to do this this PSA, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because a lot of it was like the cartoons before movies.
Yeah,
like the
it
very
was-
short little
Yeah.
things before Disney got their hands on it.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah,
So it was the wartime updates, the buy bail bonds type stuff.
Yep.
So I mean,
gonna
lots
sock
of
Hitler in the mouth.
yeah. I mean, actually, I think that probably was one of them, and probably was a Chuck Jones one too. That or Tex Avery one.
It was Captain America. Come on, which is also Disney.
Now. But that does kind of get into my next point a little bit, and pardon me for building that segue in.
All good.
But one thing that I can absolutely appreciate Old School Disney for was their spirit of innovation
Mhm.
and pushing the limits of what people thought one could do with nothing but their imagination.
Yeah.
Or ways of expressing imagination. So I mean, we saw that style of lightbox animation, the creation of ILM, what is it, Industrial Light and Magic?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, the creation of ILM with Steven Spielberg much later on. But the pushes that they made to the entertainment industry that carries over into multiple areas.
Yeah.
So not just media anymore. I mean, ILM also has, I think, like medical style contracts now for prosthetics. So, like as an entity, as a company, they were known for their creativity and encouraging that creativity. So what are some other innovations that y'all think Disney has made that are sometimes overlooked?
I think funny thing is that the one that immediately comes to mind, and I can't remember exactly what movie it is or like what the character was or anything, but there was a particular animation style that allowed them to do different poses with like the head and the mouth at the same time, where and I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but like before this point they were only able to do certain mouth movements while the head was moving. And so they updated it to be where the mouth and the head could be moving simultaneously.
Okay, so you have two expressions of movement happening concurrently.
Right.
Okay.
So that, I think that kind of translated itself into more of that digital age of Disney as well, where like they had that innovation of, okay, this is possible. So what else is possible with being able to animate in different ways?
Right.
As for like extra animation, like other than animation stuff, I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
Obviously with like the Disney parks and stuff, they have all the, excuse me, all the rides and such that have been updated throughout the years, and obviously some haven't been updated. Last time I went was 2 years ago, and there was like people were complaining. They're like, yeah, the old rides have not been updated at all, but the new ones are cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like amusement parks, I feel like are a ginormous innovation on their part, because I feel like every other amusement park is trying to be Disney.
I think it's a business goal. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So
okay, I can see that.
Caleb, do you have any thoughts on that?
I was trying to like look up some solid ones just to get a better idea of some of the stuff that would really like stand out for that. And like the one that stood out to me was with some of these movies that I don't feel like get the same love and attention that some of the other Disney movies do, but they still like really stood out, especially for me, was more the deep canvas style, specifically with movies like Tarzan and Atlantis. And like just the style and the way that they did those with just again bringing in an entirely new animation format and whatnot. I think that style, like, even though there's not a ton of movies that they use that specific style on, they worked really well, and those are movies that do have a pretty large following, even though again they don't get that same like attention as a lot of the other ones we grew up with.
Yeah. I feel like even those were still hand drawn to an extent, which is cool because I think they blended it very well.
Yeah,
because it was blending the ideas of hand
traditional
drawn
and digital.
Exactly.
Right, exactly, and that's like kind of how it was described here. It was just that fully blending the CGI effects with characters with the traditional hand drawn animation.
Yeah,
because you can still kind of see the lines moving, like it's still digital, but like it moves in a certain way when it's that flip style,
right?
But it's still CGI.
Yeah,
and it's fun. I love it. Okay, so remind me again, is Treasure Planet on that list as well?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
perfect. Because
Treasure Planet, Atlantis, and Tarzan.
Yeah. So those
and
three.
I think, wouldn't Lilo and Stitch also be on that? It's around the same time.
More modern. That was a different animation style. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but those three specifically though, like Tarzan, not as much. I feel like
that was
like,
kind of
still
their
amazing,
first dabble with it.
Yeah.
Whereas the other two were like, okay, we're really going to use this to its fullest extent and see what we can do.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and there were very similar styles in the animation and the drawing that were just like they do not get the love that they deserve. They need.
Yeah. All three of those are just so good and like have a special place on my heart. And I know that like I'm not the only one that feels that way, but for whatever reason, those three just don't get talked about a lot like the others do.
Well, of those three, Tarzan is probably the most known.
Of course,
because I remember distinctly that Atlantis did not do well theatrically.
Yeah,
which is disappointing.
It was a great story. It was original.
The character design, the animation, the world, like all of it was done really, really well.
Yeah.
So on that note, on the note of them not getting the love that they deserve, what are your guys' thoughts on whether or not they do a live action of any of them?
No.
You don't think so?
So I'm the better one of the group when it comes to the live action adaptations.
Yeah.
I just don't want to see live action adaptations, period.
Yeah.
And so I'm not the best one to ask on that one. I've only seen 2 of the live action adaptations, and I have no intention of changing that. And those 2 were Tarzan and Jungle Book. Enjoyed both of those, but the other ones I just have no intention of seeing.
Tarzan, I don't feel like was a live action adaptation, though. It was a completely different story.
It was a completely different... Well, it was more a spiritual sequel in a way. It wasn't really like a live action adaptation. Well, it was a live action adaptation with the characters with a very different and unique story.
Yeah.
And I thought that one was done really well, which granted the cast was phenomenal on that movie. Like they had an incredible cast for that one. But we just see it feels like they typically lose the spirit of what made the original movie so successful and so important to so many people when they try to do the live action adaptation. And that's my issue with the live action adaptations, and that it just feels like the soul of them is gone.
Yeah.
And it's just, it feels like they're just doing it because they want to make money. And there's not really that intentionality and purpose, and we want to make something good.
Yeah. Yeah. Like whenever I think of Disney fondly, I think of a company that is not, as I stated previously, a company that's not afraid to kind of push that envelope and kind of try something new. And so whenever I see them resorting to just, we're making live action adaptation, to echo onto Caleb's thoughts, it's one of those things where, like you're killing half the charm of the story.
Yeah.
Because the way we remember it is through the animation.
Right, exactly. And there's some things that I think they can do well in live action. But I mean, we've already seen just Disney as a whole, some of the issues they've had with CGI over the past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And so like that alone, I think is a big part of it. It's become this cash grab with the live action adaptations and with some of the more recent animated movies as well. Because like even if we look at some of the more recent animated movies, it just like there's really very few that still have the same like feel
Yeah.
to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like the last animated Disney movie I saw, or I remember seeing, and I mean traditional animation or traditional appearing.
Yeah.
The story was, I would argue, not great for kids. It was a fun story, and I'm not going to name it, but I personally don't think that it's one that would be great for kids just due to some of the content. The older kids, sure, like junior high, teens, sure, go for it.
Yeah.
But for the traditional audience that most people would think of when they think of a Disney animated film, no. And it seems like they're trying to grow their medium with that core audience of maybe our age group,
Yeah.
or maybe a little bit younger, but they're doing it in all the wrong ways.
Yeah.
Which is really disappointing to see.
No.
So, I mean, for those of y'all listening, I get tons of crap for being the Disney downer.
And you will continue to get I'm crap for it.
I expect nothing
I am
less.
pretty pessimistic with Disney. I also give David a lot of crap.
Yes, you do. And I expect nothing different from y'all, to be honest. Because some of it, yes, it's pointedly like, dude, get over yourself. But
I'm sitting here like while you guys are talking about this going, okay, this is supposed to be like a fun topic about Disney. And we're like, well, Disney sucks. Like,
No one said that.
That does not suck.
No one said that.
So-
No one said that. All I said was I'm not a fan of the live action
No, I know.
adaptations.
I
I
know.
never said Disney sucks.
yes, and admittedly, yes, I was getting close to that, but hear me out. I think where the majority of my disappointment comes from is where I started to see that shift in Disney was around that same time I started to realize the importance of creativity and originality.
Mm.
And when I started to see that shift in Disney, it was so apparent.
Yeah.
Of like, y'all aren't doing anything new anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If y'all are, it's only on the technical side, which you're not showing off well because there's no good story to pair with it
Yeah.
beyond what you've already done.
And like
And so it's more of a disappointment of
Yeah.
y'all could have done so much more.
Yeah.
it's like
Anyway.
kind of that moment of
I'll get
like
off that one.
having to kind of like stop looking at it through the nostalgia glasses
Mhm.
and kind of like really take a step back, I guess. Because like if I look at it like as far as the animated movies are concerned, there's very few animated movies that Disney has released that I didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
Disney typically does really well with the animated movies.
Yep.
And like even as a grown adult in my 30s, I still buy almost all of the Disney animated movies. So it's like clearly they stand out to me and they're
Yeah.
like something that I enjoy. But as far as like the live action adaptations, it's just there's so much of that spirit in the animated movie that you just can't get
Yeah.
in a live action setting. And it's just using Tarzan, Peter Pan, Little Mermaid, Lion King, Aladdin,
Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast. Like there's just
Which I would argue was probably one of the
about-
better of the live action adaptations.
I
I,
didn't
I fully agree.
Yeah.
like and like even coming from the person that like enjoyed both Tarzan and Jungle Book, as fun as those movies were, they didn't have that magic that the animated movies had.
So yeah, I will kind of throw in my argument here with the live action because I will agree that 99% of them have like they don't have that same emotion of like the actors not putting the same emotion into the songs as the original actors did. That like you said,
Well,
like that same soul is kind of
And
gone.
Also, like when you look at the stories of some of them, like it makes sense in an animated setting because we know that's not real.
Mhm, yeah.
Like with Little Mermaid, for example, like the story of like her wanting to leave the ocean and basically leaving behind everything she's ever known. You don't really like you. It obviously makes no sense in an animated setting, but you're still like enjoying it and like engaged and like the characters.
Yeah.
In the live action setting, it just doesn't have that like. I don't know. It almost just feels like worse. It's just like, no, no real person would do that. And so, like, I guess for me, what it comes down to is the live action almost takes away some of that escapism, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Okay, I don't fully agree. I agree to an extent because
You understand, but
yes, I understand. I will argue the only reason that I like them, other than like you said with Beauty and the Beast, I felt like that was one of the best ones that they made. And sitting in that theater when it first came out and hearing the music for that first time, I almost cried because it was so nostalgic.
Yeah.
Like just hearing that music and then getting to some of those songs where it was just like, okay, this is what it should be, I feel like. And yes, there were some moments in there that were like, okay, they shouldn't have put that in, or they should have had a little bit more of an emotion to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of my least favorite parts about that movie was in Gaston's song about killing the beast. There's one line where in the animated film he yells it out, but in the live action one he sings it instead, and it's just like, okay, you just killed that mood, right? Just ugh.
Yeah.
But everything else about that movie I felt like was just like hitting those moments of like, okay, this is nostalgic.
That's kind of where part of the issue that I have is like it seems like they try to put a little bit more of a realistic spin on the live action adaptations, even though it's like it's fantastical. We know that this isn't real.
Right.
But they do tend to try and put a little bit more of that real spin. Whereas like with the animated movies, like I know I'm not going to fly. I know I'm not going to fight a pirate on Neverland. Like I know I'm not going to do all of these things, but it's that magic and that captivation.
Yeah.
Whereas like you don't feel that because they do try to put a little bit more of a realistic spin, which I guess is kind of like that same comparison with the different Batman movies, where it's like Christopher Nolan goes the realistic route or more realistic route, whereas previously that wasn't the case. And so it's like, I guess that's kind of where my issue is. It's like, I don't want to see realism in a fantasy realm or in a movie like that's a fantastical movie that is clearly not realistic.
Yeah. Yeah. Fully agree there. Yep. I like escapism.
Yeah.
So again, though, I will argue that I do want to see a live action of Atlantis. I know you guys don't agree with that, but I want to see it.
If for nothing else, but to give that story a shot at being heard in a what am I trying to say here? If for nothing else, I will agree.
Reaching a broader audience. Maybe.
Yeah, allowing that now that people have been able to go back and look at that again and realize like,
following now.
Oh, why did we ignore this back then? And now we can actually get that story. That crafting that they put into the original storyline could actually get the following it deserves.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Not only that, but, and I might get some crap for this as well, but I
you are
feel
the
like
optimist of the group.
yes,
of course, a pessimist and just a straight up Disney haters.
Yeah, I feel like I've stated my opinion. It's not that I hate the company. It's I don't like what they're doing now.
Right. Yeah. But my thing is about Atlantis is I feel like Tom Holland and Zendaya could do really well in the role of Milo and Caracas.
That actually would.
That would be
well, actually, yeah.
Yes,
I've seen concept art of it, and I'm like, holy crap, this is amazing.
That would be incredible. Yes,
I was actually trying to think of like potential casting if they did go the live action route for that one, and I wasn't thinking of any. And then you said that, and I was like, okay, well, there it is. That makes sense.
The concept art alone, if you look it up, just so cool. But I feel like Treasure Planet though, like I feel like that could be cool.
Like that one almost gets less respect than Atlantis does for
whatever reason.
Yeah.
And it's a great reimagine. Okay, the common gripe that you'll hear a lot of anti-Disney folks, and I'm putting that in air quotes, is they can't tell someone else's story well.
Mm.
And it is true. They consistently put their own spin on something.
Yeah.
Treasure Planet is where they did it right.
Mm-hmm.
Personal opinion, where they say, you know what? We know the core concept. Let's just tweak one major thing.
Yeah.
But still tell the same story.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you do a reimagining.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I love it.
And they did a fantastic job in that one. And again, I'm not crapping on all the stuff that we grew up with. Yeah, I feel like I have to keep adding that caveat in here, especially after outing myself for my current views on the company. Oh, but even looking back, it's one of those deals like, hang on, this got me into reading old folklore. This got me into reading Grimm's fairy tales, and it's nothing like it.
No, it's not.
Now, on the bright side, modern kids cannot take Grimm's fairy tales.
I think that if they were introduced to it younger,
true,
or maybe not younger, but like introduced to it in a way of like, hey, this is the classic Disney story, but it's not.
Yeah, this is a sanitized version of the story I want you to hear,
right?
For now, I mean, heck, I know people our age who wouldn't be able to stomach some of the Grimm versions.
Let's put it this way: I have been looking at the books at Barnes and Noble, like the old classic ones, and I've been like, I want these not only because of the story, but because of the cool look of the books. I want to build my library, but like I've been looking at those and going, okay, I know these aren't the classic Disney stories, but I want to know them because I've watched all of those growing up, and now I want to know the original story, like you said.
Right.
Like it got you interested in those, but now that I'm like kind of more into that fantasy mode of things, like playing D&D and stuff like that, like it gets my mind more interested in that because I know it's different, but it's the same.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And so on that note, funny bit of trivia that I don't know if y'all are aware of. Part of the reason why there was a big stink whenever Disney bought Walden Media, if y'all can remember back to then, that was around, I want to say 2008, 2009.
I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't follow the monopoly of Disney. I just follow the
fair enough.
The fun.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way you did, though.
I followed it in the fan way, not the skeptic of the politics of it.
Yeah. So,
or business part of it.
Funny bit of trivia for that. When Disney bought Walden Media had just had, and they were at the time a subsidiary of Disney. They weren't directly owned by Disney, but they were still affiliated somehow.
Yeah.
But
like Sony and Disney right now.
Oh god, that's gonna be a sad one whenever that happens.
Yeah.
Anyway, Walden Media had just had their first big breakthrough as an independent film publisher with Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Okay.
Disney outright buys Walden Media to fully incorporate them into the company, so they're no longer affiliated. They are part of Disney.
Right.
And then they made the second one. Why the stink, though? The Tolkien estate sells the rights to Wingnut Pictures for Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
And they specify a part in Tolkien's will in commentary to Disney now owning the rights to JRR's old buddy Lewis's stories.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying, and what Tolkien put in his will, Disney will never own the film rights to Lord of the Rings. Or to any of my works. I don't remember the verbatim quote.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was a fun bit of trivia. Anyway.
It's fun for you. No, I agree to to most of the extent of that Disney should not own Lord of the Rings.
But
Neither should Amazon, honestly.
agreed.
That's
Agreed.
a whole other episode, gentlemen.
I
Yes.
think we already did that episode.
Yes, mostly. Anyway, so I think it's kind of comical how large that aspect of Disney has gotten, or how well known or how infamous, I guess, that aspect of Disney has gotten. Where it's like, okay, you're going to modify the story for your own ends,
Yeah.
but in Disney's credit, most of us will remember, as you're hitting at, we will remember the key storyline of Lion King.
Mhm.
We will remember the key storyline of Little Mermaid. Even though we know these are not the original tellings of these stories.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you want Lion King, go back to, what was it? The White Lion, or Kimba the White Lion, and Hamlet.
Right.
There's the original story.
Yep.
Just thrown together in a blender.
I mean,
You want Little Mermaid, you got Grimm's, and it's grim.
Yeah.
and we have seen a lot of adaptations from Disney that did work really well. Like
True.
if we look at everything Marvel pre-Phase 4, those stories were done really well. Those were different adaptations. There was a few misses, obviously. Iron Man 3. But there were still a lot of things that were done under the Disney Marvel umbrella that were unique and different adaptations, but still worked and
Right.
had a good cohesive story.
Yeah.
And then
Taking hints from the comic books and
Right.
kind of going, okay, let's make a different story, but still has some feeling to it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I will ask this question to y'all both as somewhat fans, because I'm addressing both of y'all. Where do y'all think y'all saw a shift in the way Disney was producing films and stories?
Mm. In what way? Like,
Yeah, a little more context.
So it can be in where there was a massive shift in your perspective in what they were
like
releasing.
storyline, or
It can
like
be in overall
animation?
storylines. In like, oh, that came out of left field. What were y'all doing? So it's something where Disney threw you for a loop, good or bad.
Yeah.
I know my previous example was more on the bad, but bias. Anyway,
Yeah. I feel like obviously when they okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like the right. I'm trying to like process, make
Yeah.
sure I got it written down right.
Yeah, because like for the good, I feel like when they started with Toy Story,
Okay. So whenever
when Pixar
was still
yeah.
independent,
Yeah. Basically, like when they started making those storylines, they were more original storylines and building on those.
Yeah.
I think for the bad, I feel like when they started going political, definitely, like, I'm not going to go into the politics of it, but when they started, and I don't even remember what movie started it all, but like when they started making the stories to tell a political story rather than
Yeah.
a fun
Just
kid
entertain
story.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I would agree with that. For my example, I guess I'll go a little bit of a different route. And when they started really doubling down on like sequels to movies, because it stopped being as like, oh, this was six. Well, so there's a lot of older Disney movies that had sequels, but a lot of those were like
Direct to DVD.
direct to DVD
Or
right.
VHS, pardon.
Or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it was still something fun and entertaining, but it was like, okay, it's going to be a while until the next official release comes out so we can do this. And like, I will still argue Aladdin 3 deserves more props.
yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
But it was when they really started doubling down as like, oh, this is a cash cow. We're going to milk this.
Yeah.
And that was the shift that I didn't like. It was like, as soon as Frozen came out and was a success in theaters, they're already like, all right, Frozen 2's in the works. And it's just like, can we just give it a minute?
Yeah.
Please? Maybe do another movie and then give it time. We don't have to go the Marvel route and just start pumping out content for the sake of content. Let's just let it settle and see if this phenomenon lasts as long as you think it's going to last.
Yeah. I am surprised that they haven't announced any, or at least they didn't announce any sequels to like Zootopia and Big Hero 6 and stuff like that. Like I'm kind of glad about that because like you said, like as much as I like Frozen 2, I do agree that they just kind of went too quick on some of these sequels, and it's like, no, let's just do a new story.
There's nothing wrong with the sequel if you do a few things right. One, you give the first one time to kind of settle and let the population get to the point where it's like, okay, you know what, I'm ready for another one.
Incredibles.
And yes,
bingo,
exactly.
I
well,
will argue
that was a little
too long
prolonged.
of a wait.
That was
I
that was
will
prolonged.
argue that was too
That
long
is
of
too
a
long.
wait.
Yes, but it was a good wait to be like, okay, we're all excited about this now.
That was one of those where it somehow managed to surpass the hype.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then, like, I know I, for one, was very nervous going into it because I was like, okay, Incredibles 1 is, pun intended, incredible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like,
and much like the little kid on the tricycle, we waited for something amazing, we guess, and we got it.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, that's kind of my gripe, is just that there's just so many sequels that just feel like they were just there to try and get money.
Yeah.
And it's like, and there are some good sequels, don't get me wrong. Like Frozen 2 was more entertaining than I expected. I mean, I went to a movie theater with a group of 30-year-olds and watched that and don't regret it at all. And we like just a group of adults sitting there and all of the kids looking around like, why are they here? So like, I didn't.
Oh man, that's the thing I love about Disney though, is like the three of us, like excluding somewhat David, but like to an extent, David
goes for the social. We kind of
I go for the social. Hey, Onward was phenomenal.
Yes, Onward was amazing.
Yeah,
but like we can, as 30-something-year-old people, like,
young men of a certain age.
Yeah. We can go out and we can watch these cartoons and nobody bats an eye really. Because you expect it from us. Because it's like we grew up on Disney.
Yeah.
It's still just that like mindset. It's kind of like my same gripe with Marvel. It's just like, just start pumping out content.
Yeah.
And we see that visible dip in quality, which we saw with Phase 4 of Marvel. And then we've seen that with some Disney sequels as well. It's like Lion King 2, not good.
No.
Lion King 1.5 or whatever it was, not good.
Yeah.
But like there again, there are some sequels that were very good, but then there's others. It's just like, okay, I see what you were doing.
Even the re-release of Lion King 1 with the extra song.
Yeah,
I was like, come on, why'd you ruin the original?
They pulled the George Lucas and threw in a random song that just didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
Young Anakin. Yeah.
Midichlorians.
So that would be, to answer your question, David, that would be my gripe, is just those sequels, the unnecessary sequels.
Yeah.
So I'll throw out a question for you guys. What were, say, 2 or 3 of your favorite Disney movies growing up as kids?
Oh. Just 2 or 3?
Oof.
I'll start it off because I definitely completely caught you guys off guard with that one.
No, you're good. Go for it.
So, like, my top for me has always been Aladdin, and it will always be Aladdin. Like, that one is just, I love that one so much. There's not much that makes me emotional these days. I still get emotional watching Aladdin.
Dude, I watched it today and freaking got emotional when Aladdin set Genie free.
Yeah. It's just like, there's just right in the feels for that movie. And it's probably just the member berries with the nostalgia, but like there's very much that like connection there for me. So like that one's absolutely my top one. Remember berries? It's a quartering quote.
Okay.
So number 2 would probably go Beauty and the Beast, I think. Because that one's another one that's like a classic from childhood and like a lot of the nostalgic tie to it. I don't get that same emotional tie to that one as I do Aladdin, but it is still a big one for me.
Yeah.
Oh man, third, probably have to go Lion King, I think. And just like, really, they're all three from my childhood, and
Yeah.
the three that I watched the most from my childhood. So.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. We had to. Oh, I remember what it was now.
It was funny, like I really enjoy Pocahontas, but that was the only original Disney movie that we didn't own growing up, and so I didn't get to watch that one very often growing up. But like, I do know that was really good. If we had owned it, that might be a little bit higher up on the list. For me, but
that makes sense.
For me, number one is and still is. So was and still is. Whatever. Number one for me is Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah,
hands down. And a fairly close second would be The Great Mouse Detective.
Oh wow,
that's a good one.
Yep.
It's a classic.
That is a surprise, but also makes sense.
It?
Yeah, no, it's a surprising one to hear,
but
then,
not from me.
Yeah, but then as soon as I think about it, I'm like, okay, yeah, no, that makes sense.
And then number three would be Rescuers Down Under.
Yes.
Okay,
That's
all
my
right.
number 4. So I'm glad you see that one.
My number
right
4
there.
is Rescuers. So
Nice.
yeah.
That's another one that like I don't feel like gets as much
Yeah.
love. Is it's like they're great movies, and there are a lot of people that liked them, but they're kind of in that same class as like Atlantis and Treasure Planet. That's like they don't get talked about in the same way that a lot of the others do.
Yeah. And I think the real charm with a lot of that earlier animation was they put stuff in for the parents as well, but it was intentionally a film that was meant to tell a story with purpose.
Yeah.
And it's not to say Disney isn't doing that now, but it is to say that it's a purpose everyone can get behind, regardless of all the other fluff. It's genuinely just like, no, sometimes you're gonna have to step out and do that hard thing. But in the end, doing the hard thing is its own reward.
Yeah.
Because it's not just helping you, it's helping someone else. Stuff like that is stuff that everyone can get behind. And they're kind of going, and it seems like they're not telling that story as well, or they're not telling that point as well as they used to.
Yeah.
And it used to be one of those consistent themes in their stories. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the hilarious thing is my list is almost exactly like yours, Caleb, just flipped. I think Beauty and the Beast is number 1, Aladdin is number 2, and Lion King is number 3. Because, like, Beauty and the Beast, I can almost sing every song by heart. Like, I sing it to my son. Or I sing the songs to my son all the time. Whole New World is another one that I sing, but like just Be Our Guest is one that for some reason that's the one that always comes to mind when I sing to him, and it's like, okay, Beauty and the Beast, and again that music.
Yeah.
The music is just
it's so good. I will say that like my old roommate Tyler has kind of somewhat quote unquote ruined my perspective on a few of the Disney songs just because
really?
he made more of like a spoof version of those songs.
And
now that is the version of the songs I hear even when watching the movie. I'm like, dang it, Tyler.
It's kind of like what my siblings and I did with Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
For some reason, like we watched it one Christmas, and we had this tradition where we stay up all night on Christmas Eve, and so we would do this thing where for the songs in it, we would replace one of the words in the lyrics with the word beer. so like when the love is gone is when the beer is gone. And so like it just every time I hear those songs, that's all I hear. So
Yeah,
same
it's
thing,
like
but.
for me with the Tyler changed no one works like Gaston to no one twerks like Gaston. It's so like it's just
Yes, but is it true?
I mean, there's no one's disputing it. I'm just saying I can't hear that song in any other way now.
Yeah. No. I mean, the one that gets me is no one bites like Gaston. So it's like in a wrestling match, no one bites like what?
Sounds like
it
no
does
one
kinda-
cheats like Gaston.
Right.
I was
Exactly.
about to say, it's no one's quite as underhanded as Gaston.
Yeah. Which they kind of allude to in the live action.
Yeah.
Too. It was like something about I sneak up on my prey and I shoot from behind.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely those three. Those three are my. There's so many more.
It's
that
really
make,
hard to narrow
yeah,
it down. Yeah.
But
That's why I did it.
Yeah. I will say number 5 for me would have been Atlantis.
Solid.
Yeah, I mean, if we were going top 10, I'd have.
Oh, yeah.
I'd have a whole list. But like,
Yeah, I would have to say, honestly, I think Lilo and Stitch would be number 5 for me.
wow,
Yeah,
really,
that is a good one.
it's funny when you mentioned Pocahontas too. Like, you said it would be higher on the list if you had owned it. Honestly, for me, it wouldn't, because like I like the story, I like the movie,
Mm-hmm.
I like the story, but it just doesn't hit as well as some of the other
The
ones.
reason I say this, I'm not as familiar with the story for that one because since we didn't own it, I only ever got to watch it if we were watching it at a friend's house that
Right.
happened to own it. And so I've only seen that movie 2, maybe 3 times.
Mhm.
Whereas like a lot of the other ones I watch constantly. So
Yeah.
like that's why I said that. It's not like it's partly just not remembering the story fully.
Right,
And thinking
yeah.
like if I understood the story a little bit better or remembered the story better, then I might place it a little bit differently on the
Right,
list.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, I just happened to think about it. I was like, yeah, number 4 would be Little Mermaid. I can't not put Little Mermaid on there because my wife's name is Ariel. So
That's fair. That's fair.
Yep.
So top 4, we're good. Okay.
No. So, all right. Thank y'all for entertaining me on the more. I guess that is kind of the more critical question. And
Critical and technical, I would say.
Yeah. In hindsight, that question definitely sounds a lot more pointed and kind of shows my bias a little bit more. But, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think adding that extra perspective. I think adding that extra perspective to it is good because it doesn't mean we're all on the same page all the time.
Right. Exactly.
But just because you're wrong,
I mean, that's been kind of the setup of this whole podcast.
Yeah.
Is just all three of us have very different perspectives.
Exactly. Yeah.
a lot of things we like of the same thing, but then there's some things that are just like, why do you like that?
Yep. But, yeah, and I think there's one awesome thing that, and it goes back into why we started this entire thing, was each of us has found a way to respect the way the others enjoy something.
Yeah.
And it's not just respecting that thing, it's still holding our own view, but being able to look at our friend and say, oh, I know they enjoy this thing, and that's what makes it's part of what explains them.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it defines you because it's ancillary to you, it's external to you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
but it explains some of the ways that we think and
express.
reason and express. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And I will say that some of the things we can whittle each other down on and be like, you may not be a fan right now, but you might be later.
And then there's just a pure spite of not becoming the fan in some cases.
Yes, but that's the grumps of the group.
That's 2 of the 3 of us.
I know. I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I mean, there are some things that you guys have
and I was trying to
mentioned.
make a self-effacing pun on that one, but okay.
There have been some things that you guys mentioned that I'm like, I'll give it a try or something. And, like, I may not like it, but I'll give it a try.
Yeah, like John Wick.
Like, I've given John Wick a try.
Exactly my
I
point.
don't particularly care for it.
Exactly my point.
As you said to David, it's okay to be wrong.
Right.
How many places can you have John Wick and Disney brought up in the same statement?
Right?
Or brought up in the same paragraph.
Fair.
All right, David, did you have any other questions that we can answer for you? Or
so outside of film, what are some things that y'all appreciate about Disney?
Galaxy's Edge.
oh, heck
Just gonna
yeah.
dive right in on that one. It's like I'm not a theme park person. I don't ride roller coasters. Like I like water parks, but that's like kind of the extent of it. But I love Galaxy's Edge. I 100% intend to go back and build another lightsaber at some point in the future. And like,
definitely, I really think we need to go together.
But dude, that'd be so much fun. Like the whole experience with it, and just the scenery, the sound effects going around you, and like
I would debate building a lightsaber if y'all went.
It'd be a fun experience with all three of us. Yeah.
For the three of us to go in, that would be amazing. Yeah. That would be a memory, man.
Just like just the whole aesthetic of Galaxy's Edge with the way that they've got the speakers positioned, so it's like it actually sounds. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You got the Doppler effect with speeders flying overhead and stuff, and it's just like such a unique effect. And it's like it was fun watching my at the time 2-year-old nephew walking around, and every time that happened he's like, oh, what, where was that? So it's like, yeah, that just the whole experience with Galaxy's Edge. Like I've only had the opportunity to go to Disney twice. The first time was not a bad experience, but not really a great experience either. The second time was just night and day difference for me.
Yeah, nice. For me, it's funny because I was gonna say Disney World was definitely that height of it, because it was the first time I'd ever gone in my 30s, but as much as I loved building the lightsaber, that was definitely like top memory of going. But I will say my favorite ride that I went on was the Avatar ride. One of the ones that they had for that was you get to actually ride on one of the flying creature. You've never actually seen Avatar?
No, I've seen it. I just don't remember.
The thing that makes the main guy like, holy crap, he's actually a good guy. Like
the really big flying creature. Like they can all ride some of the smaller flying creatures, but like he was the only one to tame the big one, and like that's what he's referring to.
Gotcha.
But they actually like they put you on this little like almost a bike kind of thing, and they open up a wall, and a ginormous screen is there for like several layers of seats.
Nice.
And it's a whole 3D experience. You put on the glasses and everything. They have mist spraying in your face. The bike thing actually moves in and out like it's breathing.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah, like
I went on that thing 3 times in a row.
They put a lot of money into that ride for sure. I didn't get to ride that one when we went. We basically stayed at Galaxy's Edge and just one of the close like attached parts of the park.
Yeah.
For a few of the kid rides for my nephew, but so I didn't get to experience that one. And we were also only there for a day. We didn't go in for the full week or anything. But I've heard nothing but good things about that ride. Like you and 3 or 4 other friends of mine have all just praised that ride.
Yeah. Yeah, if we end up getting to go, like we need to go park hopper, like
that's really the way to go.
Just like, go. Yeah.
It was funny with when we went to Galaxy's Edge, we did the Millennium Falcon ride.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, we decided the 2-year-old was going to be the pilot of the Millennium Falcon. Yeah.
It's because he doesn't really have a plan. He's just making it up as he goes.
That's basically exactly what happened. And so it's like at one point we just see my brother-in-law like operating like the hyperdrive and stuff, and he's just reaching over and trying to help my nephew steer and just keeping it in track. And he's like, my nephew did so bad with the steering that they're like, all right, we're engaging the tractor beam to bring you in and help you with this landing. And it's like, ooh.
Dang. No, that's pretty bad. I would have put him on a gun.
We didn't realize just that the seat was going to be so far back that he'd barely be able to reach it.
My gosh.
And so like that kind of fell on us. And they told us that he was the height that he needed to be for the ride. So it was like, okay, cool, we're good.
Yeah.
And little did we know that by being the height means he can ride the ride, not pilot the ship.
Right. Oh, nice. But yeah, walking through the like the pre stuff for was that the Millennium Falcon where like they had the
Hondo Anaka and all of that?
I honestly don't remember that part, but
it's like it's really the only ride that you actually go inside. And you have to like walk through the building.
Like the Imperial like lines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool.
And I will say that's actually one of the things that I can still deeply respect.
Respect. Yeah.
Respect and admire. Good grief. Those two words do not belong in the same.
Respire.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So what I can deeply respect and admire about Disney still is that their ability to make the impossible feasible as an experience.
Yeah.
So hearing you describe the Avatar ride, seeing pictures that y'all sent of the Imperial formations and the hangars and whatnot, and then my own memories of the Tower of Terror ride. I don't know if y'all ever went to one of the parks whenever this was still a thing. I want to say at MGM. They had a giant playground inspired after Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Oh, really?
And
That's cool.
and like those are the memories that stick out. Where at that point I was getting it. I was at the point where I could finally discern between this is actual, this is not, this is fantastical, this is the hard reality of you're not going to be the size of an ant where you can just ride on its back. But then being able to go to that park.
Wait, you got out of that phase? When does that happen?
That's just a phase?
Fair enough.
I still try to open doors with the Force, so I don't know.
Oh, no, I still do that.
If you call yourself a Star Wars fan and don't pretend to use the Force on the electronic doors, you're not a Star Wars fan.
No, you're just a Star Wars NPC.
Hey.
Anyway. But yeah, that's one thing that they've always been able to do exceptionally well, even at the Disney stores, whenever those were still around.
Yeah.
Was to show off, like, yes, we know it's fantasy, but that's what we're selling you is that fantasy. We're selling you this idea of your imagination can run wild.
Yeah. It's immersive. It's creative. Yeah. Fully agree.
Yep.
And I didn't even think about the Disney stores either, too. Like, going into those stores was just like
instant throwback when you
yeah.
mentioned it.
Seeing like the stuff hanging from the walls that were for the movies and stuff like that. It's just like, okay, we just walked into Disneyland. How did that happen?
Yeah. And I will say one of the rides that still has my rapt attention, just the mechanics of it, the way they do it. I love special effects. I love practical effects. It's Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
Just the way they do it, and the fact that they have two rooms to the growing room.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's two different mechanisms. It's two completely separate mechanisms, giving the exact same thought.
Yeah.
And illusion to do the exact same thing. So when you start basically to summarize, what I love about Disney is their patents.
Yeah.
And the fact that they actually they don't hide it. They show off a lot of this stuff. You can Google some of this stuff. It's awesome. But
Well, yeah, because it's like they're like, we own this. You can't do it. So here's what it is. But we own this.
well, I mean, that's the deal. The fact that they show off that, hey, we own this, like you're saying, has actually sparked in a lot of people's minds, especially based on the Haunted Mansion ride, has sparked off these ideas of, okay, that's how they're doing it. How can I do it? How can I do it and not be in violation of their patents?
Right.
And people
Just
are
has to
doing
be
it.
20% different.
I think for parody law, yes. But anyway, that's different. Well, ish.
As
Isn't
far
it?
as I know, for
I thought it was like 60% for
Copyright law.
copyright. Okay.
copyright law is 20% different.
Well, copyright and like patent stuff are for like copyright is different.
it might be
depending on
different than patent law.
Yeah.
Caveat: we're not lawyers.
the few.
I'm
This
not
is
smart
the-
enough.
This is a segment of the episode where we pretend like we know what we're talking about.
I thought that was the episode.
Depends on the section.
I think we're like 60 episodes in, and
you've been bamboozled.
All right, so we'll take our Statler and Waldorf hats off here for a little bit.
anyway,
But yeah, it's the fact
Also
that
a
they
Disney
find
product.
yes, it is. You're welcome. But just the way that they're able to come up with ways to make something just fit either right before or right after the Uncanny Valley. So, I mean, be it a full room scale Pepper's Ghost illusion, if it's statues that follow you, if it's a room transforming into a fourth dimensional space, whatever the case may be, or, oh, by the way, you're being shrunk down to go tour inside the blood vessels of this patient. Or what was the crash test dummy ride in Epcot?
I didn't do any rides in Epcot.
Oh, that and also the food in Epcot. Oh.
Ariel and I had a really hard time finding food there because we're picky eaters. So
fair.
What you were talking about, it kind of made me think of the Peter Pan ride actually too, because it puts you in like flying over London.
Oh, nice.
And it's just like, oh, that's so cool. I think it's actually somewhat newer. Like it's, I'm sure it's old, but it's
I don't remember it. So
you do remember it?
I don't remember.
Oh, you don't remember? Okay.
So it's been put in since 2003.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, they make it so immersive. Like it's not the like highest quality ride. Obviously, like the Avatar one was freaking amazing. But like, it's literally just like you're in. It's a car kind of thing, but I feel like they almost made it like a bed style, like you're flying on a bed. But yeah, like flying through London, going past Big Ben and like all this other stuff. It's just like, oh, it's so cool.
Which actually, sorry, you saying that reminds me of another classic Disney. Yeah, it's Big Ben.
Okay, sorry.
Big Ben. Big Bend is the state park.
Right. I was sitting there like, wait a second, did I say that right?
One's a clock. One will leave you dehydrated.
Yeah.
When you said Big Ben, I just immediately thought Parks and Rec. So, oh look, a clock. We don't have that in America.
Sorry, but you mentioning the style of that ride does bring up another, in my mind, classic Disney movie. And probably one of the first I remember hearing them getting flack for, even though I was not around for the release. Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Oh yeah, yep.
Great movie.
I honestly do not remember like anything about it, but I remember liking it.
It's such a fun movie.
Yeah, and
yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen it.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, for me personally, Disney is one of those cases where the nostalgia is worth the payoff to a large extent. But it is also, that nostalgia and how strong it is what's also helping feed, in my mind, the downfall of it.
Yeah, I can understand that. Like, wanting to feel that nostalgia, but not getting it from the new stuff because it's new.
Well, not so much that, but because the new stuff is derivative of the nostalgic stuff, and it's not hitting that same
I would argue against that with certain things. I think it really depends on the movie. Like, for example, Encanto, I feel like was one of the few that really captured that magic for me again, whereas like I was really engaged in the world and the characters and like loved the animation and this like banger soundtrack, like and that was one of those that like when I was watching it I was like, okay, this is why I grew up loving Disney. I remember now. And then there's others, it's like I agree that there's like, okay, that doesn't really have that, they're not really playing on the nostalgia, whereas Encanto is like, despite being a brand new movie and it being my first time ever watching it, somehow hit in a nostalgic way.
Right. So, and to your point, Raya, Raya and the Last Dragon, and Zootopia. Both of those great films. They're great family films.
Yeah.
And they're funny.
Yeah.
And
the con baby.
Yes.
Con fu baby.
Awesome.
Oh, that's the Zootopia one.
Yeah.
That skunk butt rug. You come to me on this day, my daughter's wedding.
The fact that that's just nothing but a very blatant, thinly veiled Godfather reference is amazing to me.
Is it even thinly veiled? I don't think it's even veiled.
Well, I mean, his daughter wasn't veiled for her wedding, so yeah. Oh.
Well, it's like movies like that one and Encanto, Raya, like they do manage to capture that Disney magic. There's definitely
I will also add Moana to that.
Moana was solid. I will.
I've only seen bits and pieces of it, and Encanto.
I will say that Moana is on that list because I can put that on multiple times a week to fall asleep to. Like, if I'm having a hard time falling asleep or whatever, I can put that on. 5 minutes, I'm gone.
Some people would say falling asleep to the movie would be a counter to your argument.
No, it's. I'm sure people could. But looking at you guys, but it's just that soothing though. Like it's the music in it is just, and the water sounds are just like, oh, I feel so relaxed watching this. But then when you put it on when you're awake, it's like, okay, these are really good songs and really good story. So,
yeah. But I mean, it's kind of the point I want to leave on, at least, is I think Disney is at its best when they're trying to do something new with story, not just presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of my... If people hear nothing else of someone who is pretty openly a Disney grump.
Mm-hmm.
Not pretty. Blatantly, openly. Blatantly.
Yeah, I wouldn't say
whatever
pretty either, but...
Yeah, that's fair.
You're a handsome guy. Just not pretty.
I'm a 2 at best. No. But, I mean, if people hear nothing else... If people hear nothing else from a poignant Disney grump, the company can do well.
Yeah.
As an entertainment mogul, as a huge player in that space, they can do well if they focus on their strengths.
Yeah. Focus on their strengths and slow down a bit and think about what they're actually putting out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I can agree with
if
that.
they try something new, it will be rewarded.
Yeah. So you've heard it here first, folks. Try something new. It will be rewarded.
Unless it's skydiving and you're not good on first tries.
Anyway. Any other thoughts before we close? Okay. I think that'll about do it for this episode. If you guys are enjoying listening, please share with your friends, and we'd love to hear from you from any of our social medias. 2 Geeks, 1 Noob. Look us up.
Bye.
Bye.